I say a lot to the male leaders in my company that they can set the tone as well. Like obviously, everything about being a parent and a successful business person requires dual engagement around both sides of that equation. Like you know. I think you really helps. If you've got a partner, it really helps if they're actively engaged in it. The other thing that guys can do, leaders, is be very public about their engagement with their families and their family responsibilities and their other side of their life. Because that's another way. I'm actually taking my kids to a doctor today.
I'm going to be 44 this year, and I've just, come to the fact that I am the president of Droga 5, and, that's a good thing. It took me a long time and a lot of support from a lot of people to feel like that I could be in charge and I could be the boss. And I would say I tried to think for this very honestly a couple pivotal moments throughout my career where that started to change. And the first thing was I came to grips with my leadership style, which isn't a very sort of male-skewed leadership style. If I tried that out unsuccessfully for a number of years. If I was going to pound my fist on the table, people would mock me. They just didn't believe it. Tried to raise my voice for emphasis sometimes, and there'd be a strange look, and people would keep going. So once I embraced the fact that I had a quieter form of leadership, and that could be in itself just as commanding and as inspiring and a gathering of people that would follow you as a louder form of leadership, I was that much stronger. So, the one thing looking back is understand who you are and understand that there are different types of leadership that are really effective. And I actually think, the world is going in such a way that, a more, again, not to make it female or male, but a often more female form of leadership where you do have a strong point of view and, finding comfort, finding your voice, or a comfort level finding your voice, but that you gather people and you listen, and it's not about winning the meeting or being the smartest person in the room, but it is about finding what everyone as a group can be amazing at and inspiring them to move forward together. I was pushed by two very pushy ladies along the way. The earlier part, I was at BBH for a long time, about 9 years, and the earlier part of my career at BBH, Cindy Gallup, who's back there in her blue outfit, Cindy Gallup told me that she wanted to promote me to be head of account management. And I found every reason, this all sounds kind of tragic on my part when I tell these stories, I found every reason under the sun to tell her why I couldn't be head of account management at BBH. I was running Levi's, it was too important, the martyr syndrome for the agency, I had to get it right. And I think the reality is that she knew, even though I would never have known or admitted this at the time, I was scared. I would have been the boss, or I became the boss of a lot of people who were older than me, more experienced than me. And so I told her no. She went away. She came back and I was like, whew, got out of that one. Thank God, it was the right thing to do. She came back about 2 months later, and again, another conversation I remember very well. She sat me down, crossed her arms, and said, Sarah, I am not going to let you turn down this promotion. So I found a way. I'm going to give you more support on Levi's. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z so you can take this role. And it will be a mistake for you not to do it. So the reality is that was my first foray into management, which I was very good at, but I would have walked away from it. And I think that's an example, to Anne's point, where somebody said, you're going into this role. There's other people who desperately would have taken the role and were asking for the role, and she said, no, you're going into this role. And I was scared of her, so of course I took the promotion and became head of account management. So that was one person. The other was Emma, who is going to be on the panel later, so I'll make her desperately uncomfortable. And it's a little bit of an odd story. I had, and again, Anne talking about the different phases you go through when you have children. I know we're going to talk about that later, but I'd had my first son, and it was a couple years in, and I was sort of moving along at nowhere. I wasn't really challenged anymore, but it was all because of me. It was because I had decided that coveted work-life balance, that I couldn't take a bigger role because I would never see my child. That was in my own head. And I was running global accounts, and it seemed comfortable, and I couldn't decide what it was that I wanted to do. So Emma was then CEO of BBH, and I remember she sat me down, ladies and their pushy talks, and she said to me, you can be managing director or you can work 3 days a week. It's up to you, and it's a choice. You can do either. I'll support you either way 100%, but you have to make a choice. Not making a choice is a bad choice. And she was 100% right. And what that forced me to do is go away and think about what it was that I aspired to. And I think that was the first time, again, probably in my late 30s at that point, that I said, you know what? I'm going to work. I'm not going to be at home. I'm going to work. I actually really love what I do. And if I'm going to work, I can be challenged. And the further up the ladder you go, you don't have to throw labor at every single problem anymore. You don't have to be the person that is there till midnight, making sure the deck is perfect, because it's about leading and empowering other people. So I need to take a step up. I need to move up. And I want to be challenged and happy. When I'm not with my family, I want to be inspired. So that was a big decision. Of course, I don't know if Emma meant to make this happen, but I did resign about 3 months later to go to Droga 5. I was at BBH for a long time. And that was a case where I was in my own way. So along the different points in my career, I was my own worst enemy. I had a lot of people who were saying, you're the right person to do this. If I hadn't had them, God knows what would have happened. I'd be, running Vaseline as an account director is probably what would be happening. And then I suppose the next point in my career is when I did go to Droga 5, and I started out as the general manager. I was pregnant when I interviewed there, and Johnny Bauer, who's head of planning, called me up and said, I think they need somebody like you, like really badly. And my response was, there's no way I'm going to that hipster pro bono agency. I'm too old for that, and that's not going to happen. Like, I should be going to JWT or something at this point. I was 5 months pregnant, and I went in, and I talked to David and a couple other people there. I said, you know what? I think I'm going to do this. This is probably, to the point about risk, the stupidest move I would ever make.
You were pregnant, memory loss.
I was pregnant. And I remember I was wearing baggy clothes, and I could tell they were getting ready because they weren't very organized. So, of course, like second meeting, they wanted to make me an offer. And I said, I have to tell you something first. I think what David said is, you've always wanted to work in Brazil? Like, no, I'm pregnant, 5 months pregnant. So, and they said, it's okay, we want to get the right people. And I think at Droga, it's been about 4.5 years, has professionally, I've gone like this. And it's interesting when I look at why. It's not because of any purpose or intent. It's not because I said, this is the time where I want to take the next step. It was simply based on necessity. And I think there is nothing that's more freeing and frightening and empowering as not having this sort of checks and balances. I'd always been in these organizations with these phenomenal checks and balances. There was a global person to make sure this was right. There was someone who really understood a P&L. I didn't have any of that. So at first I was terrified and thought, what the hell have I done with my life? This could have been the worst mistake ever. But then I just decided, I'm here. Now it's time to believe. None of that am I capable of being the boss. Now I just have to believe in my own bullshit. That's the way I thought of it. Make decisions. And I had so much rope to hang on myself. I probably hung myself and nobody knew it, 5 times a day. But because it was all up to me, to a large extent to figure a lot of things out. And I had a lot of people relying on me. And I'm
Right.
now very comfortable being the boss.